Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel from PTO Today, and today we are thrilled to have our friends at Get Moving Fundraising back with us again for another live chat. Today's topic is something we can all relate to: how to pass the fundraising baton without losing momentum. Whether you're passing the torch or stepping into a new role on the PTO, Maggie and Andrea from Get Moving Fundraising will be sharing some pointers on how to transition effectively. Keep your team organized, and the big one, how to avoid donation drop off year over year. Hi, ladies.
Hello. So happy to be back here with you, Rach.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Great. We are so excited to dive into this. And for everyone watching live, if you have a question, drop it in the comments and we'll try to get to them at the end of the chat. This chat will also be available to rewatch on the PTO Today YouTube channel. Okay, so let's get started.
Right.
So, what are some common challenges parent groups face when a new fundraising chair steps in?
Well, I think the first challenge might be even finding someone to fill that role, right? We're calling this pass the baton, but you need somebody to pass the baton to. So that might be the situation for a lot of people watching. Like you might be watching this like, yeah, great. I don't have anyone in that chair yet or in that position. So the first thing you have here is just some ideas just to kind of spur your own kind of recruitment efforts. Some things that other schools are doing that you might find kind of creative and helpful for your own board. So the first one here you'll see in the top left is the fundraising chair kind of action figure. This is a super big trend right now. It's very, very fun. PTO Today, so Rachel, PTO Today has a whole article about this that I know you guys have shared on social. That's great because what you do is you just go to AI, so ChatGPT, you go to the PTO Today article, copy and paste their prompt, and then put that into ChatGPT, and then you can kind of tweak it. So you can say, okay, I want this to be called, vice president or treasurer, or of course, fundraiser chair. And then you can put the question mark, say replace the face with the question mark, and then it'll kind of give you this beautiful graphic that then you can use on social media. And it's just something funny, right? It catches people's attention. They might have seen it in other places. So this is one way that you can kind of get the word out there that like, hey, we're looking to fill these different positions on the board. The other two at the other corner on the bottom are kind of like our classic posters, right? Like if it's not broken, why fix it? That's like the missing poster. You can do like a wanted version of the poster, and then you have the silhouette, the question mark, and then the role you're trying to fill. What I like about these is, yes, you can do it on social media, digital, but you can also print these out. And I think so much right now, as we all know, is like it's on your phones, it's on social media. Sometimes it kind of works to have something physical in the school to catch people's attention as well. And then the last one I really like because it's more interactive. This is a nomination bulletin board. So this is something you can do like at your PTO or PTA meetings leading up to elections, where you have the roles you need to fill, have a stack of sticky notes and some pens. And then as people come in, as your volunteers come in for the meeting, they can actually nominate other people for those roles that they think would be a great fit. And the reason I like this is because it also really builds up camaraderie in your group. I might not feel qualified to be the fundraising chair, but if I had 5 people nominate me, I might feel a little bit better taking on that role. So again, just some ideas for how you can recruit new members and fill the positions that you need to fill. And then Andrea joining me here today. So she is one of our fundraising coaches. She is incredible. She works with schools in Florida and Georgia. But she also, Andrea, you are a former PTO board member yourself. So you have some firsthand experience here that you can share with the rest of us for how to kind of conduct the turnover process in a way that keeps the train on the tracks, right? You don't want to completely derail something just because we have a new person coming in.
Exactly. And it's just inevitable. I mean, boards are going to have turnover, and depending on your board bylaws, there may be term limits already set in place. So at my previous PTO, we had 2-year term limits. So we always knew that, okay, every other year, we're going to have to look for that new fundraising chair or that new vice president. So of course I was a fundraising chair because specifically when I joined, it seems like the fundraising chair is always the brand new parent because they don't know any different. But That's just how they get you, and then you're there. But it really was a great experience. But one thing between, the fundraising chair is a very important part of your board. And so you need funds to run events, you need funds for the teachers and for anything else you have planned. So one of the most common challenges is, how do you transition out, from one previous chairperson to the next? And communication is key for that. So whether you are watching this as a new chairperson, transitioning out, or you're a brand new chair, there's going to be some key points that we'll talk about, and we'll explore a little bit further in the chat today. So one of those key points is make sure you have information from the previous year with each fundraiser that's occurred. So this can be your profits, how much did you keep? And then even like business sponsors, incentives, there could be an ongoing list of different things for each fundraiser that you want to have on hand. Also have an understanding of what worked and what didn't. That seems probably silly and very simplified, but it can go a long way of when you're planning for next year of what events are the most important to keep. And then also, what rules and processes do you have in place just with your bylaws? So is that your principal needs to approve all events for the next year? Usually that is the case, but you want to make sure you're familiar with everything there. So a lot of what we're talking here about is communication. So how is the current chair communicating to the new chair regarding the key points here? Some boards may utilize everything online, like Google Docs, OneDrive, something that everyone is a part of, or you may have just simple binders for each board member. So that can be helpful as well to just pass it along from one to the other. We used both at my PTO. We had a lot of our binders for each individual position that we would switch out. So that was helpful to have, where you could just look at it at any time. Another item we tried to have in place too was to have a shadow chair. So if you're doing a fun run or any type of event, you're going to want to make sure that you have someone in place, if that's possible, if you already have a chairperson in place for the next year, that they kind of get on the job training with the previous chair. And so that can be really important for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. I would rather kind of like have the job, but like not all the responsibility right away, right? Like, so that's really, if you have someone that can be that shadow role, I think that is so smart for the transition.
So how can new leaders feel confident continuing a fundraiser that they didn't originally plan?
That is a good question. So in our role, kind of working with, so our primary point of contact at the school is typically the fundraising chair, right? Because we're helping them run their events. So oftentimes what we'll see is new fundraising chairs come in and they're really excited to leave their mark, which is excellent. We don't want to kind of like dim that spark, right? But we want to take a pause here and figure out, okay, is it wise to jump ship, or is your fundraiser working and you just want to kind of shake it up a little bit, kind of put your mark on it? And so some things you want to think about right, talking about giving pause, is you don't want to risk some certain things. You don't want to risk losing momentum by changing the entire program or event. You don't want to risk lower participation, of course, decreased donations. That's like, no, thank you. Burning out volunteers who might be used to a certain type of event that they run, and then disappointing students. So a lot of times when you're talking about fundraising events, that becomes something very memorable in the school. And you don't want to kind of take that away from students who look at that as more of a tradition. So those are just some things to kind of keep in mind on whether or not you should continue a fundraiser or not. Andrea already brought up sort of like more of the data points to look at, like when you're trying to judge, is the current fundraiser that they've been doing successful or not? Of course, you have profit, the numbers, very, very important. But then you also have some other indicators for success, and that's looking at like participation. Has participation been increasing over years? Has it been kind of stagnant? Has it even been declining? Same thing for like sponsors, business sponsors. Have those been picking up momentum, or have, kind of in your community, are sponsors sort of sick of sponsoring this certain event and maybe you want to offer something new? So those are just some questions to kind of ask yourself. Now, going back to the original question, if you are trying to continue an event that you didn't originate with, how can you kind of leave your mark with that? Like, what is a good way to do that? And we have a couple examples here. So these are schools that actually work with us. Andrew, I believe you personally, are they both Florida schools? I think they are.
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm.
So we have Timberland Creek at the top here, and then you have Lake Mary PTO at the bottom. And they have both worked with us for many, many years doing a fun run. So it's the same fundraising program, but you can see how they've kind of changed it up year over year. So Timberland Creek, you can see that they've done different themes. This is a great way to shake it up, rebuild excitement in your school, but the core functionality of the fundraiser stays the same. The same process stays the same, but how you're kind of presenting it to students and families is changing. So you have Superhero Fun Run, Outer Space Fun Run, Wild West Fun Run. I love, they did that last year. And then you can see as well with the Lake Mary example that when you change up the theme, you can also introduce new incentives. So again, this is a great way to kind of re-engage your students and your families. Lake Mary did a retro fun run. Love that. I'm a 90s baby, so of course. They had like a classic gumball machine you could win. When they did their glow run, they had a glow-in-the-dark hover ball. Fitness fun run, they did a 4-square game for the top raising family that they could win. So when you're thinking about your themes, it also goes hand in hand with your incentives and then even with your like promo materials as well. So bottom line, keep what works, but you can make it feel new with some of these kind of creative touches that you can see from these examples.
Okay, great. Those are great examples. So what if your school is used to a certain type of fundraiser? How can you introduce something new without losing momentum or buy-ins?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. So Maggie did talk about how to keep your event and keep the momentum, but if you want to do something brand new, you really have to be super cautious with that. So anytime a board wants to do that, there can be pushback from the admin staff or even the parents. So you want to really kind of tread lightly. If there's a specific event that you feel strongly that needs to change, that's great, but don't change everything within that next year. So you will definitely get pushback from the parents if you do that. So definitely, if you think that fun run this next year needs to just be a fun obstacle course, do it, make it different, but keep the spring carnival the exact same so that you won't get everyone super upset about everything. So get the buy-in from these different groups. For example, your staff, teachers, your admin, they all need to be on board for anything. So one way of doing that is just make sure they know it's going to be different, but it will be better. And then they can also, just make sure they understand how the new event's going to go. Mm-hmm. Students, that's very important. We have a couple of ideas on the slide here. Guess the event. That's super fun for the students. Get them excited about it. You can do an assembly and you can offer, different bulletin board ideas here and get them to try and guess the event. Make it a competition within the students. Also, parents, probably the best way of reaching them would be through social media posts. So you can make that a competition as well. And what we did here, you can do a breaking news thing, or you can do a crack the code competition and hand out a gift card to the winner or something similar. Mm-hmm. So definitely buy-in is super important for these important groups, just to make your next events successful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any like personal success stories where a school successfully made a transition, and what exactly made it work?
We actually did. So obviously I've alluded that I was a PTO fund run chair before being an employee at Get Moving Fundraising, before becoming a personal event coach. And one way that we did it, we wanted to change up our fund run. We had previously been doing something completely different, and we wanted to take it on ourselves. So in order to get the staff and the admin on board, we did create a massive PowerPoint. I still have it to this day, and I look at it from time to time of some of the things that we put in there. But the presentation was also to work on getting the teachers buy-in, the staff buy-in, why we were changing it up, and what we were wanting to do instead. Super important, because you want your teachers on board. You're going to need their help if you're doing your event on your own. It's only going to be more profitable if your teachers are talking about it. So that's super important. Also, we needed our PE coaches' assistance on the day of the event to help set up, to utilize some of the items that he had, including a speaker. And so that was super important to have his support as well. Finally, you want your admin on board, because hopefully they're going to do something crazy fun or something super dirty if you reach that, when you reach your goals. So you definitely want them, part of the event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Principals don't just approve events. We like it when they get turned into like human Caesar salads. That's what really drives the donations.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a lot of fun. So what tools or resources can make a fundraising handoff smoother year over year?
Well, the one you actually have on here right now is helpful. So Andrea alluded to, when she was a PTO member, they put together a whole PowerPoint, right, to get the buy-in. One of the things we try to do at Get Moving is to kind of do a lot of that manual work for you. So if you are trying to convince your board or school to kind of switch platforms, providers, fundraiser type, we will a lot of times kind of send you a pre-made PowerPoint that then you can use to try to hand off, all of the information about why it makes sense to do, a color run with Get Moving or something like that. So PowerPoint, I think, is great for presentation, right? For getting that buy-in. But if you're just talking about handing off the baton, right? One chair to another, I think there's kind of 5 boxes that you sort of need to check. So the first one is just a snapshot, right? Because if you're coming in as a new chair, it can feel very overwhelming. You've never done this before. There's a lot of information you got to try to, wrap your head around about the different fundraising programs your school does, what you want to do in the year coming. And so providing just like a one sheet kind of, hey, here's the fundraisers we did last year or during the time I was the chair. Here's how, profit margin, right? Here's what we spent. Here's what our take home profit was. And then here's what I recommend. I think we should do the fun run again. I think we should cut this program. I think we should switch our timing for this, because your experience as the current chair is really the most valuable thing that you can share with the chair coming in. So to kind of give that snapshot, just the headlines as sort of one simple reference sheet for them really, really helps. Then we have the numbers, right? We've kind of been talking about the data, the numbers. What you want to do as the current chair is really connect with your treasurer and create either, and they might already have something, but like a spreadsheet, something where each tab can be the individual fundraisers. And in there, you can have more of your data, like participation numbers, business sponsorship, money totals, donation totals, average raised per student, if you get in that kind of nitty gritty. And then your third box is your contacts. So this, again, a spreadsheet works perfectly well for this, but you want to be tracking your volunteers, of course, as well as your business sponsors. Those are kind of the 2 really key contacts that the new chair is going to need. With both of those, you, of course, want name, role, contact information, but then again, have a column in there that's your notes. Do you know, okay, these volunteers, I know they're transitioning out of the school, they're going to the middle school, so don't bother, trying to text them. They're not even here anymore. These business sponsors, they did great and they kind of want to change up their level of sponsorship in the year to come. Again, your takeaways are really invaluable for this section. The fourth box is your promotional materials. So sometimes what we've seen is you'll get a folder and it's just the printed out flyers and posters, which is great. It's cool. It's a reference. But really what's going to be key, and Andrea already kind of said this, is to have something like a Google Drive, a OneDrive, a flash drive. I'm kind of dating myself there, but something where they can actually have the files that then your new chair can go in and just either update or at least be able to see like, okay, they created this in this program. I'll be able to kind of recreate it and create promo materials for the event to come. And then the fifth one is to just have a conversation. So this is less of a resource and more of just like a tip, right? Like we talked about, the handoff is really key to the communication. And so schedule like a coffee date over the summer with the new chair, if you're the chair kind of going out of the position, and be able to have, you know, those four boxes with that information, kind of hand that off to them in person or email it, and then kind of go over it with them together so that they can ask their questions and you can answer them and you guys can just kind of have a conversation, because it's just going to make them feel that much more confident going into the role. And then the last thing I want to mention here is we actually have a new resource coming out for our platform. So FundHub is our donation platform. We provide it, Get Moving Fundraising. And within that platform, you, as the new chair, you can get a login and actually see all of your dashboard, all of your data right on, you know, your screen, your phone, wherever you're accessing it from. And it's really nice that it's all there. Plus you're connected with your coach, right? So Andrea's school, if she has a chair leaving, she can get in contact with the new chair, and then Andrea is the point of contact, which is great because then they're not kind of going into it blind. But one of the new things we're offering is basically a fundraiser transition kit. And so all of the things I talked about, all of those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, we kind of broke it down here and made it into really easy templates that you can go in and you can fill in that information. It looks nice, it looks clean. And then you have that as like a beautiful PDF. You look very impressive, and then you can give it to your new chair. Everybody's impressed with you. You get a round of applause as you're leaving. But it really helps, right? Like that passing the baton and making sure they have all of the info that they need.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing resource. Okay, so final question. As schools are wrapping up the year, is there anything new or exciting to announce from Get Moving?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. So one thing that we're incorporating this next fall is something called houses. A lot of schools use houses already, so it's not really a brand new idea. Think Harry Potter, obviously, that's kind of where it came from. But they're made up of just a few students from each grade level and even from each homeroom, and then they're combined into larger groups. So a lot of the houses that I've worked with, the schools who utilize the houses, they usually will just name them red team, blue, green, and yellow. But the reason why they do that is it encourages teamwork. It's even kind of a mentorship with the older kids versus the younger kids. And it's also just a healthy competition. Sense of belonging, it all works. It's great, just to have them in different groups other than their homeroom classes. So not only will the schools now be able to run reports based on grades, homerooms, they'll also be able to utilize the houses as well. So we'll have student pages like we normally do. We'll have class pages like we normally do, a main event page, which honestly, a lot of platforms don't have, but now we're going to have the house pages as well. So they can see a house leaderboard. They can do some fun, healthy competitions with that and set up goals and even incentives for those houses.
Yeah. I love that feature. I'm very excited for that to be rolling out. We've had a lot of schools we currently work with who have houses in their schools as like an organization level. So now that they can have the web pages for their donations is also really cool. The other thing I want to mention before we wrap up here, and of course, take any questions we got, is we have something really special for those of us joining on this live. So every year we offer a Dream Team grant. So this is $3,500 basically to help make your school dream a reality. So it goes to school parent groups. So if you want to have a new playground equipment, if you want to do school beautification, we've funded STEM family nights and brand new gym equipment. So those are kind of the types of projects that it goes towards. The grant officially opens in August, but because we love PTO Today and all of you watching, we're basically giving you early access to a select few starting in mid-May. So it'd be in a couple weeks from now. So basically you could go ahead and apply for the grant before the school year ends. And we're doing this because a lot of leaders, of course, are talking about transitioning out. So you might want to submit your school before you're out of your current role in the parent group. So that's why we're kind of opening it up, like I said, to a select few groups, our PTO Today people being one of them. So if you do want access to that, you have to do two things on whatever platform you're on. So whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, go to our page, so at Get Moving Fundraising, and just give us a like, give us a follow. And then on the live itself, just comment Dream Team. That way we'll be able to reach out to you and give you the forms you can sign up to get that early access.
That sounds awesome. Okay, so we do have an Instagram question that came in. And actually one on your grant. So can any schools apply for the grant, like any type of school, even private schools?
Yep, any K through 12 school based in the US, or if you're an international military school, we also accept those. But it doesn't have to be public, it doesn't have to be charter, Title I. Private schools are welcome to submit as well.
Awesome. And sorry, we have a lot of people just commenting, saying what they use. And people are saying they use Google Sheets to keep track of stuff. Okay, one person is asking, they are the president-elect on their PTO, and they are wondering what kind of information they should get from the current president before they step down.
Andrew, you might know this better than me.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what I would also look at is the calendar, like the previous calendar, previous years, contact information from people. So for example, if they had business sponsors, there would be a good amount of information you would want. Business sponsors, you would want that contact information. I would definitely sit down with them maybe on a couple of different occasions and just really chat through the entire previous year so that you have fundraising, events, any type of contact information, and then you should be set up for the most part, and their contact information. So that way, if you have any questions, you can harass them next year.
Yeah, there you go. I think also another good one, if I'm thinking like president-elect, is just like meeting minutes. So any meeting minutes that have been kept, any records like that. Andrea mentioned calendar. I think that also includes your meeting calendars. So like how often did you meet as a PTO? Was there a certain day and time? Did you have to rent out, a room in the school? Like kind of where did you meet? You might already know that as the president-elect, but kind of just that like organizing your group in general would also be helpful.
Awesome. And I think that kind of is all the questions right now. So, okay. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Get Moving for joining us today for this live stream. We'll be doing another live stream with Get Moving later this summer, so make sure to stay tuned for more details on that. And you can also learn more about Get Moving at getmovingfundraising.com or follow them on social at Get Moving Fundraising.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.